Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Uma Maheshwari, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. In this video lecture series, particularly, I'm going to explain about the need for modulation, and the various types of a modulation. This is the main activity of a modulation where we are throwing a stone. Here it will go to some extent, but if we fold the papers inside, fold the papers, and will if we throw it, it will go only in a less distance, but inside, keeping the paper inside the folding it along with the stone, it will be thrown over a long distance. That is what modulation is. It refers to the process of changing the parameters of the carrier signal corresponding to the instantaneous values of the modulating signal. Modulation, it is nothing but a process which converts a message signal into a suitable form to transmit over a long distance through a communication channel. This is necessary because the message signal, being a low frequency signal that cannot be transmitted efficiently over the channel directly. It is nothing but a process of modulation. The process of shifting the passband signal to the baseband frequency range is called as a demodulation. Modulating signal is nothing but a signal that contains the message to be transmitted from the sender to the receiver, and it is called a message signal. A carrier signal, the other signals which is used in the process of modulation, is the carrier signal that has high frequency sinusoidal waves. Modulated signal is nothing but, after the modulation is done, the resultant signal refers to the modulated signal. This signal is the mixture of the carrier signal and the message signal. The frequency of the message signal to be sent is generally low, but at the same time the frequency which is being the frequency of the carrier signals to be sent is generally high. Then the reason for modulation is, we need, in order to design the practical design of antennas, this modulation is used. Then simultaneous transmission of several signals, that is for multiplexing, this modulation is used. Then for suitable signal transmission through various distance, this modulation is used, and also for narrow banding. Then baseband signal. A baseband signal refers to the transmission signal that hasn't been modulated or demodulated to its original frequency. It can be transmitted over optical fibers, coaxial cables, under various signal waves. Then interaction purposes, and for in order to transfer the information, and also for broadcasting, this modulation is very needed. In order to transfer information, we'll be using a transmitter in the form of audio, video, text, computer data, and picture through facsimile, telegraph, or a telex, and over the internet. Then for broadcasting, the information which is to be sent through radio, television, or the teletext. Then it also increases the signal strength, and it also used for a wireless communication system. Then in order to prevent the message from mixing of the other signals, then in order to calculate the size of the antenna, this need for modulation is mainly used. The length of the antenna can be easily calculated using the formula where L is equal to lambda U by V, which is equal to 3 into 10 power 8 volt, where L is the length of the antenna, lambda is wavelength, and V is the carrier wave frequency. Then in order to reduce the size of the antenna, then for signal mixing, this communication range increases. Then for multiplexing of signals also, the need for modulation occurs. Then the adjustment in the bandwidth are also allowed. Then the improvement in the reception quality. And the various types of modulation are analog and the digital modulation. In analog modulation, we have amplitude modulation. Then the frequency modulation and the phase modulation will comes under angle modulation. Then the digital modulation techniques, we have amplitude shift keying, frequency shift keying, and the phase shift keying. In amplitude modulation, the carrier wave is varied in accordance with the amplitude of the modulating signal. For frequency modulation, The frequency of a carrier wave is varied in accordance with the amplitude of the modulation. Then for phase modulation, the phase of the carrier wave is varied in accordance with the amplitude of the modulation. This is the difference between the frequency and the phase wave. Then the various uses of modulation are, one can use the most uses of different types of modulation, that is the interconversion of signals from its existing to the another form. Then digital modulation is used for the transmission of the digital signals over the analog baseband. Angle modulation is used in order to transfer the low bandwidth signals such as TV or radio signals. Then it is also used for a modern digital multiplexing techniques. So assessment is why we are going for a modulation, then how the different types of modulation used, and what is the use of it.